Good morning. It is such a joy to be here this morning, to see so many friends I've not seen for some time, and to see new friends that I'm just meeting today for the first time. Today I want to talk with you about moral imagination as one way of connecting with the divine powers of love and a sound mind. The term moral imagination may be new to you, but the power of love and a sound mind, that part may sound familiar. The Apostle Paul wrote in his second letter to Timothy, chapter 1, verse 7, that God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. I want this verse to be the foundation this morning for our exploration of moral imagination. It is also our launch pad. But if I start to get too out there for you, then I would encourage you to come back to this center that holds. God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and love and a sound mind. My first introduction to the term moral imagination came 3 years ago when I was reading Women Rowing North by Mary Pfeiffer. And I came across this sentence: time and moral imagination are the great healers of the human psyche. For all my life, I've heard time heals all wounds. But with every passing decade, I wondered, seriously? Just how much time does this take? So the idea that there's this missing ingredient that could work with time to bring actual healing really captured my attention. My first impression, though, was that this was some kind of oxymoron, like jumbo shrimp, or a plastic glass, or scented deodorant. It made no sense to me. I realize now that's because I was raised to believe in moral certainty. Moral certainty is belief beyond all reasonable doubt. As a prosecutor, for 10 plus years, it was my job to prove the facts of each case beyond a reasonable doubt and convince the jury to the degree of moral certainty of what happened and what justice required. But somewhere during that decade of experience, I found that there were things I believed beyond a reasonable doubt that I did not have the evidence to prove, and things that I might have the evidence that could convince a jury beyond a reasonable doubt, or that my boss might believe beyond a reasonable doubt, but that I didn't actually believe myself. So when I came across the idea of moral imagination, I wanted to know more. In fact, there is nothing I've thought about more over the past 3 years than moral imagination. But today is the first time that I'm sharing these thoughts. I've not written or spoken about it publicly. It's the first time I've gathered all my thoughts together to try to distill it in a way that makes sense to me and hopefully to you too. But buckle up, because we may hit a few bumps along the way. When I think of morality, I think of good or bad, right or wrong, what we all know in our hearts to be true. But is it really that black and white, that binary? Should we close our eyes and just believe with all our hearts? And when we disagree, do you have to be wrong for me to be right? In biology class, I was told that the human heart is about the size of a clenched fist. And when it comes to morality, we do tend to hold tight to our beliefs with a clenched fist. Sometimes it feels like we're holding on so tightly that our heart is like a Grinch heart. You remember the Grinch? Every Who down in Whoville loved Christmas a lot, but the Grinch, who lived just north of Whoville, did not. And it was because his heart was 2 sizes too small. And it was through experiencing the true meaning of Christmas that his heart grew 3 sizes in one day. And instead of living apart from the Whos and judging them, he connected with them. And he became part of a vibrant, loving community. And when we start to unclench our hearts, when we start to step back and look at a bigger picture, a new point of view, it also opens our eyes and opens our minds to a much broader experience. We can start to connect to the people around us in new and exciting ways. This opening of our minds is imagination. For more than 3 years, I've been wearing this Mud Love bracelet with the word imagine, and imagining all the people living life in peace. And in addition to John Lennon, I think of Albert Einstein, who said, imagination is more important than knowledge. Knowledge is limited. Imagination encircles the world. As human beings, we can't live on random facts and information. We need to find meaning. So we naturally use our imagination to make sense of the world around us. And we do it by telling stories. Stories are as old as time and have far more power than time to heal the human psyche. Stories are the substance of moral imagination. The ancient Greeks created stories to explain all of nature, human emotions, life, and death. They looked up at the sky, and it was Zeus who controlled thunder and lightning, rain and wind. The sun was his son, Apollo, riding his chariot across the sky every day, while Apollo's twin sister Artemis was the moon at night. Zeus's brother Poseidon ruled the sea, and his brother Hades the underworld. Through theatrical productions of tragedies, the tragedies of Aeschylus, Euripides, and Sophocles, the ancient Greeks created crisis and catharsis for the entire community to experience together. And I've heard it said that comedy is nothing more than tragedy plus time. And the ancient Greeks produced many comedies, like The Clouds, The Wasps, The Birds, and The Frogs, all by Aristophanes. So as I was thinking about talking with you today about a moral imagination and the power of story, I realized that I was writing about this 10 years ago when I wrote the book that you received as you came in this morning. The book is set in ancient Greece, the heart of Western civilization, and explores the world of Socrates and Plato through the eyes of Socrates' second wife, Myrto, who was also the granddaughter of Aristides the Just. There's just a passage from the book that I want to share with you this morning that explains the symbol you see on the screen that I created as my logo for Socratic parenting. I call it the mind's eye. You could read more about it on my website, SocraticParenting.com. And of course, you have the book to take with you if you want to read the whole story for yourself. So I'm turning to page 148, chapter 28. I want to know about the symbol on the alabaster jar, I whispered, casting my gaze toward the table. Pick it up and hold it in your hands, instructed Aspasia. I gently lifted the smooth marbled jar and held it in both hands. Like alabaster, you are a soft stone, Myrto. The jar felt heavy and cold. As I raised it up to study the carvings, I found it contained olive oil with a rose and cinnamon fragrance. This symbol, I said, it looks like the yin-yang that Fiona wrote about, yet it is decidedly different. Tell me how it is different, said Aspasia. It looks like a sunset at sea, I told her. If that is a sunset, what is this? Aspasia asked. She turned the jar around in my hands so that I could see the same symbol carved on the other side, only upside down. A sunrise, I suppose. Yes, Aspasia agreed. The only difference between the sunrise and the sunset is your point of view. But what does it mean, I asked, turning the jar around again from sunrise to sunset. The symbol represents the human soul, Myrto, said Aspasia. This world that we live in is a world of shadows. The truth is a world of light. In the center of the mind's eye, is the mind's eye, connecting body and spirit. I ran my finger over the dark swirl. This is my body, I said. Aspasia nodded. And this is my spirit? I asked, pointing to the swirl of light. Again, Aspasia nodded. And my mind is both light and dark? Yes, Aspasia replied. Each of us is born with a mind half opened. Some of us, like Socrates, spend a lifetime opening the eye as wide as we can. Others seem to lose their curiosity and childlike wonder. With each passing year, the eye closes further. But they too can open their eyes if they choose, can't they? They live in darkness, Aspasia replied. When they see someone with a light as bright as Socrates, it hurts their eyes. They never give their eyes a chance to adjust. What about the gods? I asked. Are their eyes always open and able to adjust to light and darkness equally? We are the gods and goddesses, Myrto, said Aspasia. She placed her hand over mine, which were still holding the jar. We have created them in our image because we are afraid to acknowledge our own divinity. I also want to read the last sentence there on page 151. You must use your head, but always follow your heart. Moral imagination does not ask you to follow your heart and ignore your mind, or ignore your heart and follow your mind. It empowers you to open your heart and open your mind so that you come from that place of love. There is fear all around us in the world, and sometimes we feel it ourselves. We need to let ourselves feel every emotion that arises within us, because once we acknowledge and honor our feelings, we can choose to act from a place of love without going crazy. And think about it. Every moment, somewhere on the planet, the sun is rising. And at that very moment, somewhere on the planet, the sun is setting. And every moment, somewhere on the planet, the sun is somewhere in between. Einstein said that time is relative and that the present, the past, and the future are just an illusion. It's all happening now. I'm sure many of you have read The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. Which takes us back to that sentence from Mary Pfeiffer. Time and moral imagination are the great healers of the human psyche. And the time for healing is now. My mantra for 2022 has been, let it be. I wrote that in the sand on Hilton Head Island in January this year and bought another Mud Love bracelet with those words as a daily reminder. I even compiled a Spotify playlist of more than 150 covers of the Beatles song, and I listen to a different version each morning after I meditate and before I do my daily wordle and read the morning paper. I love the double meaning and intention of this short phrase. Maybe the best example of what I'm talking about is Johnny Appleseed. He went around planting seeds that would grow into apple trees. So when he planted the seed, he had to let it be so it could grow. You can't be standing over it and digging it up every day to check on it. But when you plant a seed, there is also the hope and the intention that an apple tree will grow. Let it be is also that vision in a prayer. It takes faith. It's the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen that Paul was talking about in Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1. I love the second verse of the song. When all the broken-hearted people living in the world agree, there will be an answer. Let it be. For though we may be parted, there is still a chance that we will see. There will be an answer. Let it be. My time is coming to a close and I feel like I've thrown a lot at you. If you've listened with an open heart and an open mind, it doesn't matter in the least whether or not you remember any of my words. What you will remember is how you feel. And the feeling that I most want to leave you with is a feeling of peace. Peace in your mind and love in your heart. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. Wayne Dyer said that peace is the result of retraining your mind to the process of life as it is, rather than as you think it should be. Let it be. Plant seeds of love and peace. Scatter them about and believe that many will take root. And hold that vision of love and peace in our heart for your friends, family, our community, and our world. Now, may the Lord of peace himself give you peace at all times and in every way. Thank you. Namaste, my friends.